that destroyed the dinosaurs missed. Who would walk the earth together?
Whoa.
From the creators of Inside Out.
We need to get home. I'm done being scared.
If you ain't scared, you ain't alive.
Disney Pixar's The Good Dinosaur. November 25th in 3D. Rated PG.
Oh, do not let that trailer fool you into thinking that this is another classic movie like Inside Out. No. We're going to take it look at one of Pixar's worst films they've ever put out, and that's saying a lot because Pixar usually does not make really bad movies, but when they do, they're pretty bad. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the last 4 films of November 2015, Thanksgiving weekend 2015. So, let's get right to it and start off with the biggest of the new releases, because yeah, it made the most money on this weekend, but it was a big flop when it came out. It was actually Pixar's lowest grossing film up until the films that came out after COVID, but this is The Good Dinosaur. This is a film that is based off an original idea by Bob Peterson, and we'll touch more on that original idea in a little bit here, because yeah, it's not original at all. Set on a fictional Earth in which dinosaurs never became extinct, the film follows a young apatosaurus named Arlo, who meets an unlikely human friend while traveling through a harsh and mysterious landscape. See, a long-necked dinosaur meets up with unusual friends, traveling through a harsh and mysterious landscape. I wonder what movie series that reminds me of. I just can't put my finger on it. Maybe you folks out there will remember this. Can't seem to think of the franchise I'm thinking of here. Oh, hey, Littlefoot. Oh my god, I just figured it out. This is basically a diet version of Dinosaur, which was Disney's other dinosaur movie. I mean, of course I'm joking with you. It was a diet version of The Land Before Time, god damn it. Why did I do that? I had no reason to do that, so there you go. He's alright, but you get the idea. The biggest problem with this film is that it's a diet condensed version of The Land Before Time. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, it's hard not to think about this movie and think of the far superior movie with this dinosaur who is still very much in my memory bank, because I used to watch this movie like crazy as a kid, and I still love it to this day as an adult. But here, you can join in on the review. There you go. Close enough. But yeah, we'll just do it this way. There we go. But anyway, yeah. It's hard not to look at this movie and think to yourself, geez, this is a diet condensed version of The Land Before Time. And when I watched this movie, I couldn't help but get those comparisons to The Land Before Time, from the main character, Arlo looking like Littlefoot here, and also Bambi, except both Littlefoot and Bambi were able to overcome their fears much quicker than Arlo does in this movie. That's the biggest problem with this movie, is the script. They make a big deal about bringing in a new team to help make the story better, but really, when you watch this movie, you really notice a downward spiral compared to how Pixar usually tells stories. I mean, let's be honest, there is no real motivation for this story except for Arlo getting back to his family and his connection with the human character Spot, which I thought was a cool concept overall, to have the human character being like a dinosaur, while the dinosaur was more the smarter person here, but that's about it. I mean, it's the typical buddy road movie done Pixar style here. You can join me right here, because you're about to keep falling every time I try to talk, but yeah. But they've done this story before with the Toy Story films. They've done it with the first Cars movie, Finding Nemo, WALL-E, Ratatouille, Up, in which two characters who don't like each other at first bond over the course of several misadventures, and here it's no exception. Pixar has been able to make it work in the past, but here a lot of it just feels forced, and nowhere is that obvious than the third act climax of the movie, where they take a random bad guy from previously in the film and make him the main bad guy for the third act climax. I'm not even kidding. They take a pterodactyl voiced by Steve Zahn and make him and his cronies the main bad guys for the final act. Why? Because why would we bother with a gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex like in The Land Before Time? Why go with Sharktooth? You know, that thing could easily eat any of the animals in that movie, but no. The main baddie in this movie is a pterodactyl. See the problems here? This movie was rated PG. The G-rated movie from the 80s was much more intense than the 2015 PG movie, but then again, 80s G was a whole nother level on its own merits. But not only do they really force a death scene in here, they're pretty lamely to the point where you really look at it, the dinosaur that gets killed off could have easily survived. There was a point where, the thing that's about to kill him is like more than 6 feet away from him. He can try to jump over, like try to do something at least make it more dramatic. But no, he's just kind of like, I'm just gonna stand here and accept my fate. I mean, we get it. It's a Disney movie. One parent's going to be killed off in this, but the way it's done here, he's able to get his son over to the safe area quickly, but there's still more than enough time for him to get over there. But he's just like, no, I'm gonna die so you can have some kind of a purpose to continue on the adventure. And just like, it makes no sense. When his mother dies in The Land Before Time, there's a reason why she doesn't come back. She's not able to go on the journey because, yeah, an earthquake literally caused her to get killed and put her in a situation where she was never able to move forward from where she was at that point. And she basically had to tell Littlefoot, you have to find a way to keep going, man. I'll always be there in your heart and all that type of stuff. But here, he gets bumped off with a face that literally looks like he's just like, well, sure hope you like being dadless. And then the avalanche of debris hits him. It's just kind of like, it makes no sense whatsoever why they did that. Even that logic gets ridiculously complicated after that, as the scene following that where Arlo gets separated from his family, he ends up getting swept away in the same river, and throughout the film, he's getting bruised and banged up and gets put into this situation where he clearly shouldn't have made it out alive, that even his father probably could have survived that. And it really does feel like Pixar didn't put their heart into the story. Just like it just forced the scriptwriter to get something out quickly so they can have 2 movies released in the same year. And I mean, you could tell that. I mean, the writer for this is not a bad writer, Meg LaFleur, who just wrote Inside Out, and I really think she really didn't give all of her time to this. Unlike the compelling story that Inside Out have, there was literally nothing in here that worked about this storyline. Despite those important complaints about the film, there was still some stuff I did like. I did like the characters in this. As much as I criticized Arlo for being a pale imitation to Littlefoot, I thought he was still a likable character, and you do want to see him overcome his fears and get back home. And I do like the connection with him and the human kid, the Spot. Very genuine, very real, and their building friendship does work overall. I do like those characters when they come across like the dinosaur with all the animals on him. Like, I wish they could have done more with that. I like the Tyrannosaurus Rex character they had with Sam Elliott as leader of the pack. Like, I didn't mind the pterodactyls. I just didn't like the fact that they were forced to be the bad guys at the end of the movie because they literally ran out of time to put together a good plot and a good villain to continue on there. You didn't even have to do a villain, honestly, but I thought the voice cast overall was really good. Jeffrey Wright and Frances McDormand playing Arlo's parents. Raymond Otched does a pretty good job as Arlo. Sam Elliott, like I said, as good as the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Anna Paquin played his daughter in the movie, which was really unrecognizable to me. I didn't even know I didn't even realize she was in there until I saw her name in the credits. It's like, wow. I mean, they got her in there, but AJ Buckley, Steve Zahn, Jack Bright, they're doing a good job with the material given to them. The comedy overall is good. There are a lot of really good bits of humor thrown throughout the movie, and a lot of the stuff that was in the trailers, I mean, yeah, a lot of that was from the comedy elements of it, but, I mean, it was already in the 10-minute preview for the film at Disney's Hollywood Studios that I got to see when I went down there for my vacation just a couple weeks before this movie came out, but nevertheless, I thought it was still pretty good. I think the best aspect overall about the movie is the animation and the music. The animation in the movie is just beautiful to look at. You can see where a lot of the money went into it, and it does look gorgeous. The set pieces are spectacular, and it really does feel like a lot like a Western set in dinosaur times. And yeah, I give the movie a lot of points for not putting itself out in the open as a Western, but it really does feel like that. And that's actually the one aspect of the story I'll give it credit for. The music is also really good, too. You got Michael and Jeff Dana doing the music, and I thought they did a pretty good job with it. So yeah, overall, I just really didn't like it that much. I just wish there was, on the one hand, it's hard to talk about the movies without bringing up the far superior The Land Before Time, because The Land Before Time is still a much better movie. And even if you didn't watch this movie as a kid like I did, you could still watch The Land Before Time and see that that movie still has a lot more merits to it than this movie does. Like, that movie was able to take more chances story-wise and character-wise, and it doesn't talk down to the kids that are watching the movie. In this, I'll give it credit that the characters overall are still very likable. The voice acting is still good. The comedy is good. Both the animation and the music is really good. And yeah, I'll give it points for that. But at the same time, it's just not a good movie overall. It's just a kind of a really lackluster film. And I'll give it this, though. I'll give it more credit than, I would say, Dinosaur or the infamous Walking with Dinosaurs movie, where it's literally the same thing, where you have these great visuals, but because the studio's so desperate to get people into seats, let's just go ahead and cast these random people in here so people can be like, oh, I recognize that voice, oh, I recognize that voice. This one is probably the least bad of those movies, but even then, it's still not a very good movie. And again, I can't help but look at this movie and not think to myself, this is just Land Before Time all over again. Like, this is Land Before Time. Is like for the people that, it's a Diet Land Before Time. I've always said it's Diet Land Before Time. And if you grew up with the Land Before Time or saw the Land Before Time, you will know that this is a much better movie than this pile of garbage here. Like, the whole movie just feels like it was empty. It didn't feel like they delivered much with it. It's just not a very good movie, man. It's one of Pixar's worst movies, and it just didn't work. It just doesn't work as a whole. And like I said, if you want a better movie, watch the one with him in it, not this movie right here. I mean, I think you get the point. Good Dinosaur, a.k.a. Diet Land Before Time. I think that's pretty much all I need to say about the movie. Diet Land Before Time, and it ain't very good, So there you go. That's the Good Dinosaur, a.k.a. Diet Land Before Time. So I'm going to go put him back while you go ahead and take a look at the trailer for our next movie, which is the far superior film of the weekend, and that is Creed.
I heard about a third fight between you and Apollo.
How do you know all this?
I'm a son. I want you to train me.
Your father was special. I don't know if you are. See this guy here? That's the toughest opponent you're ever going to face.
What's wrong with you? Hey, somebody help! If I fight, you fight.
Bring back everything that's ever hurt you. You belong here.
We've been kind of hyping this one up for the last couple of weeks after Bridge of Spies, which, of course, everyone was shocked when Mark Rylance won the supporting actor Oscar over who was surely supposed to be the front runner with Sylvester Stallone. But I talked about my piece about Bridge of Spies, but now let's put the attention on Creed, which is one of the best movies of the year. You have Adonis Johnson, played by Michael B. Jordan, who's the son of the famous boxing champ Apollo Creed, who died in a boxing match in Rocky IV. Adonis wasn't born before his father's death and wants to follow in his father's footsteps in boxing. He seeks a mentor who is the former heavyweight boxing champion from a friend of Apollo Creed, Rocky Balboa, played by Sylvester Stallone, who is now in retirement. Rocky then agrees to mentor Adonis. With Rocky's help, they hope to get a title job to face even deadlier opponents than his father, but whether he is a true fighter is to be seen. And the Rocky films have definitely had their ups and downs. Of course, the original is a classic, and the sequels range from good to bad. Like, you got the good stuff like Rocky Balboa being the best of the series, and Rocky V easily being the worst of the series, but there really wasn't a need to reboot the series, mostly because Rocky Balboa ended the series in a good way. It was a much better movie that capped off the story of Rocky Balboa more than Rocky V did. But then Creed came along, and I gotta say, Creed might very well be the best Rocky movie ever. I mean, that's saying a lot because the first Rocky is a classic movie, but this really was one of the great sports movies I had ever seen before. And, this movie worked because of so many things that made me realize how much I love the people that made this movie. Of course, we've talked about Ryan Coogler a lot on this channel, whether it's on this show or on talking about the movies, especially My Love of Sinners. Of course, him and Michael B. Jordan just got their Oscars this year. Of course, this is coming after their success with Fruitvale Station. I mean, this movie was one of the reasons that made me realize that these two guys were on their way to becoming some of our greatest filmmakers out there. There's just something that connects when these two get together, and this movie definitely is the proof of that. This film does a great job of paying tribute to the original films, making it feel like a Rocky movie, but at the same time, giving it its own fresher feel to it, which the series would eventually go ahead and do that with. And, the Creed series has been pretty solid all across the board, with the third film in particular being probably my favorite one of the series, and that was directed by B. Jordan himself. It did a better job of paying respect to a long-bestowed franchise than what Spectre did earlier in the month with James Bond. And I mean, Michael B. Jordan, talk about a guy who needed a career rebound badly after Fantastic Four. This proves that he was a star in the making, giving a great performance in this as the title character. He really does carry the movie on his own and shows what a great future he will have as a great actor. And his chemistry works really well, especially with Stallone. And let's talk about him, because, yeah, Stallone was really good in this movie. While looking at Stallone in this, you might think he was there just kind of be stunt casting so could get butts into the seats, having him return as Rocky Balboa just to pass the torch along. And while that's definitely what the casting is, the movie is clever enough to give Rocky a story where he can work off of it on its own merits. He hardly has any friends or family left around him anymore because a lot of them are dead. When the son of his closest friends comes into his life and sees the potential that he has, he sees a little bit of himself in this kid while facing his own personal demons. And I'll delve more into that a little bit later on, but Stallone in this really lets himself go. This is really some of the best acting he's done in a long time. Not since Rocky Balboa, or even since Copland 20 years ago. I mean, this is a terrific performance, and you can definitely see why he got an Oscar nomination for this and probably should have won, but unfortunately he was in a year where, you know, he was behind Mark Rylance, who, as I've said before, was great in Bridge of Spies, and he deserved to win the Oscar. But, you know, Stallone definitely deserved to win one, and if there was any other year, he would have probably gotten it for this, but that's here and there. But the rest of the cast overall is really good. Tessa Thompson's pretty good as the love interest. Felicia Rashad playing Adonis's mother is really good. Wood Harris is back as Tony Evers. Tony Bellew is great as Ricky Conlon. The rest of the cast is working pretty good. The camera work overall is great. Many of the scenes are done with one shot and done incredibly well. The fight sequences are nicely done, mixing in real footage with footage as if the fight is being watched on HBO. It's a really unique approach to the fights that, once again, meet with the familiar style of the Rocky series and the format of the past fights, and does something refreshing and new with it. Kind of like what Creed 3 would later do down the road, where Michael B. Jordan would add in the aspect of, adding a little bit of an anime flair to it, but we're still a couple of years from that movie overall. But the best aspect of this movie overall is the way the story plays out. We just talked about The Good Dinosaur, about how the story doesn't work because it's so predictable and just goes all over the place. Here, it's done very well. It's done in a way where you think you could tell what's going to happen, but the movie is smart enough to turn the tables on you and give you something else you weren't expecting, but again, plays back to the original films. Like in the previews, they make it clear that Rocky was sick, and considering that this was more than likely probably going to be Sylvester Stallone's last Rocky movie, of course, he would show up in Creed 2 again, it would have been so easy to kill him off in this, but the movie does it very cleverly where you could see it as Rocky's swan song, and yet he doesn't have to die, at least not in this film. And I don't think, as far as I remember, I don't think he has died yet in the series, but in the series of Creed's films, I'd have to check back again to see. But the way they do it here, it makes it so that it's not just Adonis fighting for his own battles, but Rocky's fighting his own battles as well. It does a great job of blending both their worlds together and making it flow in a good narrative where neither one of their storylines are overlapping one another. I will say, if there is one nitpick I have about this, and it's a real nitpick, the opening scene with Adonis as a child, and you have Felicia Rashad's character taking him in as his own. Not that the scene itself is bad, but it says the film took place in 1998. Now, if you remember in Rocky IV, Apollo Creed died in the fight with Ivan Drago, and the movie was released in 1985, and natural assumption is that that's also when the fight takes place. So if this takes place in 1998, that would mean Adonis would be 13 years old? Like, the kid they got to play Adonis in this does not look like he's 13 years old. He looks like he's 6 or 7, but they're trying to make it look like he's 13. And they did say that Adonis' mother was an extramarital lover, so you can buy into that, but at the same time, it's just the way the kid looks. He does not look 13 years old. And even if he wasn't born in 85 or a year or two afterwards, he would still not look like he's 13 years old at all. There are other moments that don't really work, but nothing to the point where it's worth going off on here. But that opening scene's logic really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like I said, it's a nitpick of a nitpick, and it doesn't take away from the fact that this movie had a very difficult task to complete, passing the torch of the series off to a new character, but also provide a satisfying conclusion to the original guard, and Creed definitely much succeeds at that. This is why I think it's the best of the whole franchise. The casting is great. Michael B. Jordan gets a chance to break out as a leading actor and succeeds. It gives Sylvester Stallone one last great ride as Rocky Balboa, and he succeeds at that. It gives the franchise a chance to spawn a new leaf while paying tribute to the original series, which it has done that with the next two films. It continues the legacy of Rocky with a mix of something old and something new to excel it as one of the best films of the year. And it is one of the best films of the year, and I don't think I need to tell you because you probably agree with me on the same levels here. Creed is a great movie. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check it out. So, let's go ahead now and take a look at the lesser movies of the weekend. Well, maybe one lesser movie. But you would think that a film that features Professor X and Harry Potter in Victor Frankenstein would be a success, but not this weekend.
Are you not afraid to challenge the natural order, Mr. Frankenstein?
No. And it's Frankenstein. Eagle, you have a chance to be part of something.
Of what?
Being electrocuted, chased by monsters, and hunted by the police. Well, if you're going to concentrate on the dark side...
Be careful. You toy with wrathful forces.
I cannot argue with that. Victor Frankenstein, only PG-13.
Once again, your first mistake is opening this on Thanksgiving weekend, on a weekend where you have a new Pixar movie and a new Rocky movie. And yeah, this should have been a Halloween release. If you're going to get some money out of this, this should not have been opening up on the weekend of Thanksgiving. But this is a movie that's actually told from the perspective of Igor, played by Daniel Radcliffe. It follows his transformation from a mistreated circus performer to the assistant of Victor Frankenstein, Frankenstein, played by James McAvoy, as they push the boundaries of science in a quest to create life. This was written by Max Landis and directed by Paul McGuigan, who did Lucky Number 11, which I really enjoyed that movie a lot. He hasn't done really a whole lot that's good since then. Push, the last film he did, was kind of lackluster. Although I did really like Wicker Park. I thought that was a very underrated film overall. The biggest problem that I think this movie has simply is that it's just a movie where there's some good ideas to it, but just bad execution all across the board. And I think it's a film that starts off on a promising note with its idea of doing it from a fresh perspective, this time from the point of view of Igor, but it hasn't done anything that we haven't seen done in other Frankenstein movies. I mean, the Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein film that came out in the 90s tried something new and different with it. It didn't work all the way through, but it was still a pleasing film to look at for what they were trying to accomplish. But this, yeah, a movie like this that features James McAvoy and Daniel Radcliffe, two of the hottest young stars at the time, should have been a lot better than this. I mean, this thing was kind of bad. It was a movie where there's some good ideas to it, but unfortunately, it just never delivered on what they could have given us here. There was so much that could have been done with this, but it really did feel like they were trying a little too hard. And I think it also tried a little bit too hard to copy the Sherlock Holmes formula, because Sherlock Holmes was an unexpected success for Warner Brothers 6 years ago. This might have been 20th Century Fox's answer to try to do the same thing this time with a character like Victor Frankenstein. But I don't know. That's just maybe that's my personal thinking behind it. But yeah, this thing really should have been a whole lot better than it actually was, and sadly, it's not. A major disappointment with Victor Frankenstein. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is The Danish Girl.
First time we met, she seemed so sure.
The Danish Girl has been nominated for 3 Golden Globe Awards and 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards, including Best Actor Eddie Redmayne.
I can't go on living without knowing who I am.
And Best Supporting Actress Alicia Vikander.
Everything will work out. We do these things together.
Critics rave. It's gorgeous, heartbreaking, and unforgettable.
I love you. You're my whole life. It's you and me.
The Danish Girl, rated R.
Certainly the best movie directed by Tom Hooper, that's for sure. If you don't know, I really don't like The King's Speech. I hated that it won Best Picture that year when Toy Story 3, Inception, Black Swan, True Grit, pretty much every movie nominated that year for Best Picture should have won that award. I didn't like Les Miserables. I liked it, but not for the stuff that it was intended for, but some of the acting was pretty good. This, I think, is overall the best thing that this guy has ever directed. This is based off of a novel of the same name and follows Eddie Redmayne as Elby, one of the first known recipients of gender-affirming surgery, with Alicia Vikander starring as his wife, Wegner. And you also have Sebastian Koch, Ben Whishaw, Amber Heard, and Matthias Schoenaerts in the movie. And, yeah, overall, it was actually a real surprise for me. I was not expecting this to be anything more but an Oscar bait movie. I mean, the last movie that Eddie Redmayne was in was an Oscar bait movie, The Theory of Everything, and he won the Oscar for that. And that one wasn't bad either. I mean, the guy is a great actor, and he shows it again in this movie. And Alicia Vikander is really good in here, but I'm sorry, the fact that she won the Oscar for this, every time I think about when she won the Oscar for this, I think to myself, oh, no, she really won the Oscar for Ex Machina, because that's the movie where she actually was acting and actually doing something unique and different. Here, it's just literally a role that's made to win Oscars. It's a movie that literally, it's a performance that really is nothing that special overall. And, yeah, Ex Machina was the better Alicia Vikander performance of 2015, and I don't think anybody will disagree with me on that, but she's not bad in the movie. She's good in here. The movie overall is very interesting and very captivating and talks on a touchy subject that, around that time was a big deal, with Caitlyn Jenner being the big deal that year. Everyone was looking at, the total idea of transgender, his and her, she, that type of stuff. But, I mean, it worked for what it was. It's not the greatest movie in terms of a story that you kind of seen done to death before, but the performances do carry it out overall as something that makes it worth it in the end. I mean, like I said, Eddie Redmayne is a really good actor, and you can see why he won the Oscar the year before for playing Stephen Hawking in The Theory of Everything. And Alicia Vikander is very good too, is in this movie. But again, it's the lesser of the two performances that she had in 2015. Not much more to really say about it except that The Danish Girl, good movie overall. Not a classic by any means necessary, but it's certainly the best movie directed by Tom Hooper, especially considering what his next movie and his last film since then is going to be, and that is the infamous Cats. And you can kind of see why he hasn't directed anything of noteworthiness since then. But there you go. That's A Danish Girl for you. And so, when we get back here next time around, we're going to take a look at the last month of 2015, the first weekend of December 2015. Usually, the studios don't really put out a lot of good stuff, but We got 2 winners for you coming up on the next episode, including yet another great Christmas movie from 2015 that's rated R. Actually, no, this was PG-13, and the stuff they got away with is pretty damn good. But then again, when you have the director Trick or Treat making a movie about Krampus, yeah, it's kind of hard not to see how this movie is going to turn out to be great overall. Because it is going to be turning out to be a pretty damn good movie. So we'll take a look at Krampus, and we'll take a look at Spike Lee's latest film, and that is Chirac, which is one of the first films released by Amazon. But we'll take a look at that, and yeah, we'll take a look at the last month of the year starting tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.